Hey, entrepreneurs, here's a question for you. If you want to be successful in business as a leader of your organization, should you start the day by checking the messages from your team members who probably are waiting for you for a response? Or is it better to start your day by focusing on the number one top priority, the real needle moving thing that wouldn't sometimes get your attention if you spent the whole day putting out fires? This is a balance, and there's not an easy, exact answer for each person. There's going to be a different answer. And so this is one of those places where the real answer is, it depends. So what I'm going to tell you today is, what does it depend on, so that you can identify for yourself, you can diagnose your own situation and say, I'm person A or I'm person B. So here's the distinguishing feature. Well, first, let me back up and let's just outline what the real opportunity and problem is with both approaches. So if you're talking about starting the day by checking messages, the real benefit there is your team doesn't sit there on their hands waiting for you to get back to them so that they can make progress. And that's especially important to the bottom line for the business. If you have people on payroll and they have nothing to do because they're blocked, they're waiting for you. Of course, we could take a step back and say, well, you shouldn't have designed things in that way in the first place. You want to do modular assignment so that somebody owns the task and has all the resources they need to be the decision maker. But I know that in reality, especially when you're in growth mode, there's going to be times where you couldn't see everything coming. You couldn't give them every login or every aspect of every tool that they would need to be able to succeed in advance. It's just too hard to see around some corners. So if we just take that and we just consider the possibility that some businesses have people, for example, one of my clients that I worked with on SaaS development had a big team of software engineers in Poland. They would be working all night. He would wake up and they'd have tons of questions for him. So he wanted to start sometimes the first hour and a half of his day just getting through all the questions, making sure he took somebody's process and got it to the right person. Of course, you can have an operations manager that does all of this kind of thing for you. That's the real far-sighted answer to this question, right? But if we're just going to answer this question when you're in that growth phase and you don't have the right person, the right butts in the right seats, as Gino Wickman would say, to be able to operate without you as an owner independent business, then should you spend that time? Well, here's the downside, of course, to starting your day by answering all those questions, is that often that's the last thing you do, and that you wrap up the end of the day and you're like, where did my time go? I didn't spend any of it on that long-term project that I intended to work on, because you end up answering questions, putting out fires, and then new questions come back. There's this phenomena with inbox zero, which is that productivity concept where you try to get your email inbox down to zero messages. You check it once, maybe twice per day, you get it to zero. You don't check it again until the next day. And the reason is because the faster you respond to emails, the faster they come back to you again. And so it's this strange phenomena where by being productive, you actually inadvertently make yourself less productive, because then you spend more time on email, less time doing stuff. And that's why part of the zero inbox system is you pause your inbox. You can't have new messages piling up as you're responding to them. And there's programs like Boomerang, for example, for Gmail that will do that for you. You can tell it, like, pause this, don't bring any new messages to my inbox till 2 p.m. because I'm not going to check it again until 3 p.m. So that's the downside, right? Let's take the other side of this equation. The other possibility is when you start your day, when your energy is high, especially if you're a morning person, your energy is higher in the morning, you're not distracted by things, so you're actually smarter, according to some of the research that shows us that even having a cell phone in the room with you, even if it's face down and turned off, it causes your fluid intelligence and your working memory, two aspects of your kind of how we measure IQ, to be lower, just because some part of your brain is monitoring the possibility that there's messages waiting for you there. And that cell phone is sort of like a portal into an entire world of connections and people that you know. And so if that's true, then you can probably imagine what I'm going to say next. By checking your messages at the start of the day, you fill your brain with stuff that's waiting on you, and you actually are less effective at making progress by being focused and using your far-sighted thinking skills to figure out what you should be spending your time on and doing next. So if we want to make this distinction, which kind of person should you be, we have to take into account that there is sort of an in-between possibility, which is that you do check messages, but you don't respond to any of them. You don't get pulled into doing the work of responding to people. Instead, that's just a part of your daily startup routine, is to check email, check Slack, whatever those things are that you have to check for your team. But you don't respond. You just jot a phrase or a word down to represent each one. Then you sort them into priority, so that if it's not a priority thing, you don't give into the social pressure to respond right away. Instead, you put it lower on your list and you do the needle moving activities, the things that are the true priorities that come from your far-sighted decision making, to where you say, these are the things that should be getting my time right now. So in the process of doing that, you're going to create a list for yourself to then tackle during the day. But it's human nature that most of us are terrible at that. Unless you practice a lot and get really, really good at that, it's hard to pull off. I personally do prefer that strategy if you can pull it off. That is how I structure things myself. But I don't recommend that for somebody who finds that they try, but then they end up just getting sucked in and they're into conversations and they never end up getting back to working on their number one long-term priority. So here's how you can know which type of person you are and which approach you should take. If you're a person who, if you think about the last 2 weeks and you think about what your top objectives are, your long-term growth initiatives, the things that can make the biggest difference in helping you to scale towards your goals in your business, if you can't think of more than about 4 hours that you put in on your long-term goals across the last 2 weeks, that probably means you need to start with the first 2 hours of your day before you even open any messages. You need to work on those long-term goals. And that's just a necessity for you because you're too distractible. You're too easily pulled into putting out fires. And so we just don't even want you to know about them. Just make progress every day. And it's amazing how fires, somehow you survive them if you don't know about them and you get work done. At the end of 2 weeks, 2 hours every day, that's a lot of progress that you would have made. If, however, you're the kind of person who has enough self-discipline in the way that you approach your work, that you're always working from a written list, which is, that's my minimum requirement that I ask for the entrepreneurs I coach. If you're against time boxing because you feel too constrained or it's too hard to guess how long things take, and maybe you just feel like you can't go to that level of time boxing each of the different kinds of tasks, and maybe you also have tried what I call reverse time boxing, where you at least take all your administrative tasks, instead of spreading them out through your day, you squash them into like 2 days a week for an hour or two here and an hour or two there. If you're against both of those, at least work from a written list so that you're not just responding impulsively to essentially letting your inbox or other people pinging you be the determining factor that chooses where your most valuable asset goes, which is your time. So if you think about what's most valuable for the most valuable asset your business has, you as the owner / CEO, assuming you're still in that role, it's your time. And so we have to protect that. We don't want it to just be in reactive mode to whatever comes at you. We want it to be proactive decision making, to where you decide in advance, this is what needs my attention. And so if you're the kind of person who can follow that list, and then I say, have part of your daily startup routine be to quickly make a list of each of the things that need a response. If it would be quicker to respond to somebody than it would be to write it down on your list, then just respond, and because it accomplishes the same goal. But set a timer. This is one of the things I tell my clients: grab one of these kinds of things that you can just take 7 minutes, turn it face up, and now I've got a physical timer sitting there on my desk. It's not another tab or an app on my phone I have to open and then discover that, oh shoot, I got pulled into a Twitter notification or something. It's just a physical thing. And if that goes off and I'm still responding to messages, what it does is it prevents me from getting sucked in and losing track of the fact that I meant to just come and check one message, and instead here I am like responding to 15 messages. So it's kind of a backup plan. It's like a safety harness. So if you're the kind of person, again, this is the distinguishing feature, and this is your challenge this week. Ask yourself, which kind of person am I? Figure this out. Am I the kind of person who can make progress on my long-term goals by making a list, a daily startup routine that involves checking with the team first, but it's constrained, or not? Am I rather the kind of person who has to have that 2 hours where I don't even look until I've done, you could do it 90 minutes. You could even say 45 minutes you'll still make a meaningful chunk of progress in 45 minutes. If you're that person, then be honest with yourself about it. Maybe you'll develop the skill later. You can practice with this. But for now, if you've determined that you're the kind of person who get so sucked into putting out fires and responding to your inbox that you end up never creating the space and the time to work on your long-term goals, then start with just working on that one thing at the start of your day. If you haven't read it, read the book, The One Thing. It's a whole book about this simple concept of starting your day with just the one thing that matters most. And it will reinforce, just get the audiobook version. When you're driving around, even if it's just 15 minutes to the gym or something, just have that to where it plays automatically when you get into the car, and it will just start to saturate your brain with the importance of that. It'll tell you stories. It'll help you. Essentially what you're doing is you're choosing who's going to influence you when you choose what books you're going to read. And if you get those micro doses of that influence, it has a very significant impact on you. So this is your challenge. Figure out which kind of person am I and take action. Make a plan for tomorrow. Change your daily startup process to reflect what needs to happen for you to succeed based on your own unique situation, based on your own unique DNA, how you're wired as a human. Talk to you again soon.